Hi there, welcome to my winter update for my model railway. Thanks to the people that have joined subscribing since I last posted an update nearly 3 months ago now. Getting close to the 100, so that's nice to see, 100 subscribers. Those of you who watched my last video will remember that I bought a new 4x2 foot layout board after pretty much completing my small coffee table N gauge layout beforehand. And I was just deciding what track to do. Well, I have made some progress, as you can see. So essentially I've now laid most of my track. I've gone for a very traditional double oval, just with a couple of sidings. Now I haven't completed all the sidings yet, they're still to do, but on the most part the actual track is laid down. I just want to talk you through a few things that I've learned doing this, and also some things that I've used to help me. Now there's no doubt that laying N-gauge track is very, very fiddly. It's tiny pieces of metal, the fish plates are tiny, the screws, the nails, it's all just bloody awful, quite frankly. But in order to prepare myself, I bought a few things for laying this one I hadn't had before. So first of all, I bought the Pico track setter templates, and I'll tell you how I got on with those. The straight one obviously comes in very useful when you're laying flexible track, because it does bend a little bit, and if you put this in the track, the idea is that you can slot it in like that, and then you slide it up and down and sort of get a straight track. It's even hard to do even with this, frankly, but it does mean your straights tend to be reasonably straight, although when you get down to eye level and you actually look at it, even using that template, that's not too bad actually, but yeah, you do get some little bends in it, like that one you can see, for example. So that did come in quite handy. I used that quite a lot. And the idea is, as you lay it on the track, you've got the holes in there, and you then can drill in your screws or your pins as you go along. The first and second radius curve ones, I have to admit that I didn't get on with those at all. The idea was I was going to lay everything using the long pieces of flexible track and then cut and shape it as I went along. But as you're probably aware, with straight flexible track, you get the resistance where when you bend it, it kind of wants to straighten again. And frankly, the curves are just too tight, and I just found this to be too awkward. So I was trying to put this in and go around as I was going around, but I just found it too fiddly. So I ended up using set track for the curves. I think that's first radius and second radius there. So that's just my personal experience of using the track setters. That one very good. Those ones are too tight. They also come in third and fourth and fifth radius. They're probably a lot easier to use because then you're not bending the track so much. So they tend to be probably more useful. But I would suggest people doing first and second radius curves, just stick to using the set track pieces for that. This was an interesting thing I bought that cost about 50 pence. It's a gauge setter, so you can see it's got marks on the top and marks on the bottom. Now these two at the top here, if you were to lay them on the track, like so, let me show you, you put them in there, and that is set track. So as you can see, this is too wide, this is too narrow, sorry, so that slots in there, and the idea is the other one slots in there, and that gives you the length to keep for set track. Then the two closer ones are supposed to be prototypical. Now I've laid this track with prototypical joins, so if I demonstrate over here, you see that will slot in there and it will slot in there, and then as you go along it keeps all the way in the middle, and the same again for that siding there. That's quite useful because it makes the trains run more scale-like together, and that's a really, really simple tool from Pico that you can actually use to keep your widths the right distance. So if you're using that and you're using that, they're two simple tools I would definitely suggest people buy. One thing to be careful of is as you come to the corners, because your track's too close together, you can't have the curves going the same distance from each other, because you'll get to the point where the coach on the outside one will hit the edge of the inside one. So you can see there what I've done is, as they've gone around the curves, I've actually had to put a little bit, that curve essentially starts a little bit further down than this one. So they end up having a wider gap that reaches the middle, and then obviously comes around here and converges back to the correct spacing. So if I just show the layout as a whole, it's just two loops and some silings going off each one. I've used the, like I did on my previous layer, I bought the fish plates that are pre-soldered to a wire, so I've put one in there, and on the inside I've put one in there. So those wires are currently just loose. There we go, they're just loose under the board, ready to be wired up at some point when I'm ready to go. Now I've used, for the first time, I've used electrofrog points here as well, and I've not done this before. I hope I've got it right. So basically with electrofrog points, you have the bit here in the point there, which is actually metal rather than plastic. The idea is there's less dead space, so as the trains run over this, they should run smoother. This is a medium radius electrofrog point. I've done what I did on my previous layout, which is in terms of ballasting. When I've laid down the points, I've actually put a bit of ballast underneath it because it's harder to ballast these areas. So by having a little bit of ballast already in place, it means you haven't got to work quite so hard to cover up the gaps underneath. Now what I've done is, because I put the wiring here, it'll come round to what they call the toe end of the point. Now, if I've got my research right, that's fine, and that will continue to power the track there. And it will continue to track there, and I won't need to do anything on this loop because it will go all the way around the power, in theory, and it'll be absolutely fine. The problem will come when I set the point to go off. So the point will go off here, and I will need to have, and I haven't done it yet, I will need to have an isolated point here, because if I get my theory right, when I then have this point here and this point here, this will create a short circuit. So if I have a dead point here and I put an additional feed here, then the power will go that way and it will continue to go that way. So all I'll need is one additional power feed here coming off this power feed here, obviously under the baseboard. And if I've got my calculations right, that will be fine. If anyone thinks I'm wrong, please let me know. But that's where I am on that. Not decided what I'm going to do yet. I always kind of make things up as I go along, as you know. Obviously at the moment this is just a very, very boring, flat oval layout. I'm definitely going to have my old two-road engine shed here. So I've spaced those correctly, and this will be going over here like that. Okay, so you can see that I've already kind of like checked out all the measurements on that to make sure that's fine. That's obviously going to go on at a later date. The other tools I've been using, I showed you this before in my last video, that's coming useful for cutting the track. I've got some spare sleepers here, because when you lay flexible track, you get gaps like this. So when I've finished everything, it'll be a case of just going around and gluing the extra sleepers under the gaps. Obviously, fish plates for laying the track together. There's my isolated fish plates. So I need to put a couple of those in here, which I forgot to do, so that the power doesn't go all the way to this point after coming off this one, as I mentioned earlier. And then the other things I've been using, I've got some tiny screws. You won't be able to focus on those. And what I do is I use one of these things, and when I'm laying the track, I just put an indentation in there, then I put a screw in it, and then I just use this that came with the screws, tiny screwdriver, to obviously screw them in. And when you've done all that, this one's done, it doesn't move. This one I've not done yet. There you go, you can see there's some, there you go, there's some wriggle there. I just need to still put a couple more screws in here to stop that moving. Obviously once that's ballasted, that wouldn't move anyway, but at the moment it's a little bit loose. These are all the tools I've used to lay this track. Once you've got them, you've got them. I definitely recommend this. Track pins are a little bit more tricky because they're so tiny. You've got to be so careful when you hammer them in. I really don't have an appropriate hammer really, this is far too big. But obviously it's so easy for them just to bend in half, which seems to happen to half of them. But certainly track screws are quite useful if you use them in the right way. Tiny little thin things. The screws are useful. You definitely need the insulating joiners, the normal joiners, and some spare sleepers to go underneath your track. That's useful. That's useful. Personally, I wouldn't recommend those two because I didn't find that useful at all. Those cutters are fantastic as well. Definitely need to get those. I showed you those in the last video. That's my update on my layout so far. Thank you for watching this one. I'll just quickly show you over here. Obviously, I've still got the layout that I had the subject of many videos before. This is actually for sale now, so if anybody wanted to purchase this, this is £195. Everything you see is included apart from the train. I have just done a little bit of tidying up on this. I've been putting down some more grass and trying to fill in some of the white areas that where I hadn't done it properly before. I still got over here in the corner to do, as you can see, and that was where I didn't actually paint it properly first time before I did it. But yeah, I think that's looking rather nice. Running around the track nice slowly at the moment is this model here, which is a Dapple focus class 121 BR blue and grey. That's a really nice model actually. It has a really nice slow running. The mechanism's really quiet as well, and it's really nice having a small train like that on a small layout because obviously where you've got just a tight curve like this, you don't really, if possible, want two long trains, and that's a nice single car train just running around the layout. So if anybody was interested in the UK, obviously pick up only and collecting this, it is for sale for £195. It comes with the controller, obviously it comes with all the buildings that you see as well. None of the buildings are actually glued in place, so you do have some ability to move things around if you want to, or use the buildings elsewhere. But yeah, I've kind of done everything I can on this one now, and now I'm focusing on my new layout over winter. It would obviously be nice to get rid of this one and move on to the next one. So that's my update for you for now. Thank you for watching. Now we're coming into proper winter. I should be able to crack on a little bit quicker with my other layout now. So certainly look out for some more updates over January and February. Thanks for watching. Have a happy Christmas and see you soon. Bye.